Every year, thousands of young people age out of government care without permanent connections to caring, committed adults. Today, we'll meet 5 youth whose lives are changed by foster care and adoption. They've each faced more challenges and transitions than any young person should live through. They'll explain why permanence is the key that can unlock the door to incredible potential and give youth a chance to achieve their goals and dreams.
Since the last video, so much has happened. I've aged out of care. I've started my journey into post-secondary, so to speak. I think what I've been able to put out there now with all these different supports I have is really wonderful, and learning photography and learning, well, right now I'm in school at VCC, I'm doing my math, and it's great, I feel really stoked to be going back to school, which I never thought in a million years I would be saying, especially when I was 17. I was like, I just want to work the rest of my life. But I guess that's the difference. And then I turned 19, I aged out. For me, it wasn't a problem. I got furniture, I got everything kind of handed to me, which is such an honor now, looking back. At the time, I was like, I'm supposed to have all these things. And I think I made a lot of assumptions when I was younger. I was also morally adopted and adopted in ceremony. Meaning it's just kind of like chosen. You get to choose your parents, choose who you want in your life. And my friend Dawn, we developed a really good friendship over the years. We worked together on different projects. And when I aged out, she was like, yeah, I'd still like to, check in with you. And I was like, yeah, that'd be really cool. And then, from there, I'd get invited to family functions. I'd invite her to my family functions. And it just became that kind of family. And then I remember talking to her about moral adoption, not as like you need to morally adopt me, but just talking about the concept and the idea. And then eventually we were both like, yeah, we need to make this happen. A guy by the name of Reuben George made me his son in ceremony. It was a huge honor. Technically, I guess him and Lacey both adopted me, and she would bring me to a lot of powwows in these different places around BC and in Vancouver, and she connected me with Reuben. That was originally how I met Reuben, and I got involved with doing sweat with him on Tsawwaila-Tooth in North Vancouver. That was really just around the time of the documentary. I think it was really when I was starting that journey, but into learning around practice and ceremony and spirituality. For me, it's super great to just have those moments of prayer and connection. Especially, I'm always putting so much out, and it's really great, on a Sunday to go to a sweat and just really connect with the inner me and celebrate that a bit, as well as ask for guidance and strength. And also being put to work and chopping wood and doing these other physically demanding things is really great. And I really do feel like it's so enriching and it's so fun to talk about. And I've also learned a lot of traditional protocol and these kind of things, which a lot of things are being not taught in school, aren't taught by foster parents or other people, and so in a lot of ways I feel really honored. I think it's really important that our youth are being enriched with cultural knowledge and that kind of stuff, because we put such an emphasis on education and these kind of things, when knowledge comes in so many different forms. And that's something I started learning, really when I was 16, 17, and it's really grown, in me more and more. And and I hope to continue, so we'll see where it goes. Yay.
I'm Katie. I'm 24 years old. I'm turning 25 in October. And I grew up in foster care since I was 2 years old. I've been in only, I think, 3 different homes, so I was very lucky. And for the most part, it was good up until I aged out of care. I think permanence, for me personally, it's, if I don't have that permanence, I feel like I'm lost. I'm just floating through the world and I don't belong anywhere. So I found permanence with my son and my boyfriend, and then also my music and the bands I listen to. So I feel very grounded now. Transitioning out of foster care into adulthood was still a little bit difficult. I was never really taught what to expect after aging out, like financial situations, like not really taught how to do, like paying bills, making sure you have money to last throughout the month. But over the years, I've had good support systems to help me. The supports I've had since I aged out have been with AFA and the Federation, and also like personal supports like relationships with my boyfriend, my siblings, I have a 4-year-old, so when I was in the care of a relative, I was living with my grandparents. It was good, and it was a little bit difficult because grandparents, teenager, different generations, and yeah, I guess the reason why I moved was my disabilities, and we didn't know what these were at the time, so it's probably FAS and post-traumatic stress disorder. Mm-hmm. I started acting out. I didn't know how to use my words. I'd regrettably resorted to physical instead of verbally saying, I don't want to do this, I need my space. Mm-hmm. And yeah, when I moved houses, I was able to see my grandparents because my sister still lived with them, so I was allowed to go over on weekends. My sister Ashley and I, we grew up together. We're the 2 oldest of 9, so yeah, we grew up together. We went into first foster home together. We went into our grandparents' home together, and then when I was turning 13, I went into the foster home first time by myself. And I don't know how much of a shock it was for her, but I know it was a big shock for me. It was difficult at first to be like apart, because I've always grown up with her my whole life. Like every move we were kept together, so this was like a huge change. But at the same time, you're like a teenager, you're like, yes, my own room. But then it was difficult after that. Sharing a room with my sister, always like rolling over in the middle of the night, be like, hey Ashley, what's up? Or I can't sleep, can you sleep? Like just having that girl sibling gossip kind of thing. And then just going to a home where I can't like necessarily just like roll over or kick the bed above me, like, are you awake? So it's just like kind of separated. It was tough because I'm a very big family person. So with all like my very close friends, I consider them my brothers and sisters, and so yeah, like I do unofficial adoptions myself as a person. All siblings have their ups and downs, but we managed to keep our relationship. There would be a few times where we wouldn't talk for maybe a month or 2, but in the end something silly would happen and we'd end up talking, and that just brings our bond back together. So we've never really shunned each other for long. So our grandparents really wanted to keep us together when we moved from foster home into their care. And yeah, my grandparents kept that open. And then as I grew up into my teen years, I really wanted to be with my sister because I felt like she was the only legit family I had. So when she moved back in, I felt like the world had stabilized, if that makes sense. It just felt like it's going back to normal.
I'm 24 years old. I was adopted when I was 16. I was in foster care from the age of 9 to 16. In foster care, I was very unstable and I wasn't able to feel very confident because I was very focused on just getting by the day. I was very dependent on my friends, like they were all I had. I didn't think too far into the future when I was in foster care. I just was trying to graduate high school at that point. I thought that I would just stick it out, age out of care. That was my plan, and then figure it out from there. I was adopted by my social worker. When I first moved in, I thought I didn't really understand the difference between adoption and foster care anyways, so first it's kind of like, I did, but it wasn't really real. But I eventually learned that my mom reminded me, like, this is it, like this is your final home and you're not going anywhere else, and to get comfortable, and you're not going to move anywhere. When I got like a mom and a family to be attached to and love like that, my relationships with my friends, I found, got better as well. I always wanted to go forward in school. I went to university for a couple of years. Being adopted made that like really possible and plausible. I still was very curious about my family back east. My sister had a bunch of kids and I wanted to see them. So my sister came to visit with her son. He stayed with me and my mom for a month and 1 year. And then after seeing her, I decided I wanted to go back east. My mom supported me. She was sad, but she supported me and sent me care packages and was just like any other mom when their kid goes somewhere far away. She always like, I'm her kid no matter what, no matter where I was her kid. 2013 she got sick and I stayed with her for a couple months and then she passed away in April of 2014, last year, lung cancer. But I got to spend a lot of time with her at the end. That was nice. Like 3 months I lived with her every day, took care of her, and yeah. I miss her a lot. Yeah, we all miss her. I have family here right now. She gave me family. There's always somewhere to go for dinner or couch to crash on or somewhere to go for Christmas. Kirsty is my mom's other adoptive daughter. And then my brother Michael, he lives on the island and we go see him every so often. I lived with him for a bit right away when my mom passed away. I was there for a month and a bit with him. And then I have another brother in North Man that we see every couple weeks for dinner. Like, I'm honestly like so happy and so grateful for the life that I have over here, and it's all because of her.
My name is Ashley. I'm 23 years old. I have a 4-year-old son named Vincent, and I am a kid from CARE. When I was born, I was with my older sister. So we have 5 siblings from my mom's side. They live together in the interior, and we didn't really get to talk to them that much because we were so far apart, and it was a little difficult, and I wish I could have been there for them, but they're doing really well. On my dad's side, I have 2 brothers, but in different places. My youngest brother, he's only 2, so I'm hoping I'll be able to be there for him growing up. My other brother is a teenager now, and surprisingly, we get along. Growing up, I never really realized my life was not normal. I first went into care when I was about 7 or 8 months old, and I stayed into care until I was 19. I have lived in 12 homes and I've moved 17 times. I've been in almost every situation that MCFD has to offer. I was with a foster family and then a child in home, a relative, foster family, a group home, youth agreement, and underage income assistance. The one constant person in my life was my grandmother. My grandma is my mom. She raised me and she's always there for me. I think for me, one of the biggest things that was most difficult was my schooling. Being moved around took quite a toll on my grade 10 year. I started in one school and then I was moved to a different city. So then I had to travel for hours to get to school. And then when I was moved again, I had to transfer to a new school and my grades weren't transferred. So I lost an entire half a year of grade 10 and I didn't graduate on time. I'm 23 and I wish I was adopted. I have felt this way since I was about 15. The feeling never really goes away. There's always that part of you that just wants that stability in a family. I would have had the stability that I needed rather than the freedom that I had. Now that I have my son, I wish I could be adopted so that I would have parents and my son would have grandparents. When you think about permanence, you're supposed to think about something that's forever. And I like to think about tattoos. If you have a tattoo, then it's there for good. And if you remove the tattoo, it's extremely painful. And for me, that's how it feels when I keep moving and moving. It's very emotionally painful. Now that I have my son, it's very reassuring to know that one day he and I will have some sort of permanence. I hope that he can have the life that I dreamed of, to know that he always has a place to call home with me, and it's wonderful to dream about the life that he and I are going to have. I think permanence is unconditional love, and I think it matters because everyone deserves to have a family.
I'm 17 and I'm connected to care and youth adoption through the Speak Out Youth Group. I was officially adopted at the age of 5, but due to family issues, my mom had to go through the process again and I had to be readopted at the age of 6. Well, at the start of adoption, I was very angry, thinking that this was just going to be another temporary thing. Just, someone else wanting another paycheck that the ministry would give them. But once I started to realize that this would be my home, I started to realize that maybe permanency was like not just a word or an expectation, but an actual state of being. We all need a loving place, whether it's a moral adoption or you go through the government. We all want a home. Once I joined family adoption, they could almost see that I was having a lot more problems than I was letting on. But after I started visiting a therapist, and she mentioned that maybe equine therapy would help me get through what I was going through at the time, and that was like my first experience with horses, and ever since then I've been coming here and getting a lot better than I was at the beginning. I have a lot more love and support than I do believe I would have if I was still in foster care. There's also just so many more doors have opened up since I'm not moving around all the time and basically living out of a bag. If someone doesn't have permanence, they're not gonna, their whole way of viewing the world is so much different. It's like they're always going to be expected to move. I find that a lot of people, when I say I've been adopted, automatically think that I have severe mental issues. They treat you differently because you apparently don't have a home. And then all of a sudden they're treating you more fragile because they think something that could not be true. Horses became my coping strategies after I came out after I was released from the hospital. They helped me by just being there and in their own way understanding what I was going through. I usually couldn't fall asleep at night because I was so scared that I would end up having to move, that my mom would sit at the edge of my bed every single night until I fell asleep. And she did that till I was 11. And that was the time that it clicked, that I realized that this is my family. No one would do that unless they really, really cared about you.
Without permanence, youth can face overwhelming struggles. If we want to improve the lives of these courageous young people, we must listen to their stories and learn from them. We need to understand why permanence matters so much and commit ourselves to making it a reality for every youth in care. Their future depends on it.